Another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Peer Guidance. We are a company that loves helping entrepreneurs. If you need help, reach out. If you just need to chat, we're here for you. I also like to thank today's sponsor, and it is Startup TNT. Tomorrow, we have a top 20 pitch night at Platform starting at 4 p.m. There'll be some free food, some free beer, also some great companies pitching and then raising some and start the raise of our current summit. We'll also be live if you can't make it. So you can just go to startuptnt.com. It'll be in the comments section soon. Watch it live. And then we'll also be streaming in Edmonton or live in Edmonton and Saskatoon as well. So we've got a big couple days coming up here at Startup TNT. And it's always fun when you're raising money for great companies. Speaking of great companies, I got one sitting on the screen right now. And Kelvin from Helm, how are you doing today?
Good. I actually liked how you let in with the beer and food first before the actual pitch.
Well, we love saying, make friends, have fun, build companies, right?
Yeah, so it's true. It follows the path, right?
Well, it's maybe that hopefully that gets people out too. We have 130 some signups for tomorrow, so it should be even if you get 70% of those that come live, I mean, that should be a good 75 to 90 people watching those pitches live. So it'll be exciting.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be really cool to watch for sure.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, the atmosphere there is just something like, again, when you get, being back to live, watching all these pitches over Zoom for 2 years, for me anyway, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. And now you're seeing there, you get to meet all the founders to face, you get to chat with them, you're interacting with them after, they're taking questions from the crowd. I mean, it's just a whole different vibe.
You get the buzz. That's the one thing that is missing on stuff like this, which is the buzz and the excitement, I think.
Well, I agree. At least I started this 4.5 years ago, so this is never going to go. I've done a few live. It's harder to do this live because you're like, hey,
yeah, for sure, yeah.
Well, you know what? Let's just start. Let's just dive right into it here because I mean, we've had the chance to meet here and had a few discussions, and I love what you're creating because we talk about the importance of cash as an early stage startup, and when you're raising money, which you have done, and you're starting another one.
Yep.
What you get is so important. And again, as I said, this is the most conversation I have with any entrepreneurs, the importance of the money that you have, and not even the money you raise, but the money that you actually have. So please share why you founded Helm and how this helps.
Yeah, 100%. I don't want to get too pitchy or too salesy, but the stats, we tell the stats all the time because the stats are pretty telling. 80% of all businesses fail, and quite often more than 80% of those are due to cash flow issues. That's running out of some operational decision, not having enough working capital, whatever. There's multiple reasons that can happen, as well as over 60% of all businesses that fail are profitable. Because most people think, well, people only go out of business if they run out of money or something catastrophic happens, and it's not true. A lot of businesses out there will fail simply because they're high growth and they can't actually manage that growth properly. And so those really are the reasons that we started Helm. Got a consulting, like bookkeeping, fractional CFO, fractional controller firm here in Calgary. Started that about 8 years ago. We work with a lot of small businesses, so businesses between $0 to $10 million, more weighted to the near zero side than the 10. So people that were starting out, they really needed help with building their bookkeeping function, getting advice around finances. How do I've got my goals and my vision. I know how to do my product and widget. I have no clue what to do on bookkeeping, accounting systems, tax, anything like that. And so that's why we started that firm. But once we started building it, we got lots of growth. And, we started getting into the fractional CFO side. So guidance, strategy, this, that, the other. But what we found was there was a gap in the middle where it's like, these goals are amazing. And how do we get there? Vision wise and strategy wise, like big 10,000 foot level views, but like, how do you actually get there from point A to B? Because as a startup, I mean, you live and breathe it in the community and you talk to people all the time. It's like you could have your big, hairy, audacious goal, your BHAG, but how do you actually get there? Because, I always equate it to traveling. You're driving a car, a good old fashioned road trip, and you want to go from Calgary to Toronto. So that's your strategy. You want to get from point A to point B. But there's detours, there's pit stops, there's gas stops, there's traffic jams. There's all these little things that will detour you from point A to point B. And that's where we found most entrepreneurs and startups really, really needed help. Like, they love the dashboards, the big reports, the big financial models, but where they really truly needed help is, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to pay the bills? How am I going to pay my people? How am I going to buy that equipment 6 months from now? Those were the real questions that we needed to help them answer. And the reality is there wasn't a great tool. Like, we always defaulted straight to Excel, just like every professional out there does, and every small business owner. And you create these huge, massive, clunky models. Yeah. But what ends up happening is you spend so much time building the model, you actually lose sight of what's important, which is trying to make a decision about, where do I want to detour and what's the best path. And that's why we built Helm. Like, that is the purpose that we built Helm. We really wanted to take out all of the pain on the data downloads, the manipulations, and really get people's focus on the planning and the decision making and the communications and the iterations around that. I mean, from talking in the community and talking to people, startups, like, these decisions happen not maybe on a daily basis, but certainly weekly. It's really frequent. And so trying to map out those decisions and spending 8 hours on a spreadsheet trying to figure it out, like, it's a waste of time. And so that's why we built Helm. Like, we've got a true passion for really getting people to make a good, solid, informed decision and get there as quick as you can.
And I love that, right? I mean, obviously someone with your background and that, know your numbers, you know it, you get it. I mean, and I'm sure you could probably just not use your own app and just have that spreadsheet and get it. But I feel that pain, right? When we talk and people are out there saying, oh, I can't, I'm not even going to look at it. I'm not going to do this because I can't afford it. I know my money's got to go here, yada, yada, yada. But having, and I mean, I love that the background that you had to come to create something that is a need that is struggling for a lot of entrepreneurs that you see. Yeah. So how did this, when you put this and started creating Helm, how did that go into mind of you knowing your numbers, but being able to kind of, let's say for someone like Jade Alberts, to bring it down to my level so it'd make it easier for me to understand my numbers?
Oh, come on, you're being a little bit.
I don't want to say dumb it down. There, I said it. Dumb it down to me.
Come on. No, but it's true. So, like, when you look at other tools that are out there, because the space that we play in, so our app Helm integrates with accounting systems like Xero, QuickBooks, and other systems that we'll be announcing soon, but I'm not allowed to right now. So we've got some exciting things coming up with further integrations. Nice. We hook into those systems. Like, that's the space that we're playing in. And so if you keep that in context, we're not dealing with big custom ERP accounting systems. These companies that we're dealing with don't have full-time CFOs that cost $500,000 per year. We're talking about real small business people. And when we were in the consulting practice full-time, we really found that communication piece is key. And so when you look at something like Excel or tools that are built like Excel, essentially they just look exactly like Excel. They're just a fancier version of it in an app. We really lost people. I always call it the Glaze over factor. And when I talk to other professionals like bookkeepers and accountants, it's a common occurrence. And it makes sense, because if I'm talking to you, Jade, the small business person, you're really good at what you're doing. Like, if you're a restaurateur, you're an amazing chef. If you're selling furniture, you're really good at craftsmanship and inventory and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. You're probably not astute or trained or skilled in the finance side. It's not to say that it doesn't exist. It's just more times than not, it's not your jam and you don't want to do it. And so when we as professionals are trying to jam a spreadsheet down your throat, that's why the glazed over look happens. It's because it's just a bunch of numbers. Like, it's meaningless. To us professionals, we're trained in it. We got like 4 or 5 years of experience or education or whatever. It tells a story to us, but it doesn't tell a story to who we're talking to, which is interesting, because then we built our tool to be speaking to that person, not to, say, professionals, but to true small business owners. So we built it to be very visually intuitive. You can drag and drop to change your forecast instead of punching numbers in. It pulls data out of your system, so it builds the forecast for you. Like, we do a lot of lifting for you. And we've created it to be simple, quick, and intuitive. Like, those are really our MO. That's our jam. That's what we want to accomplish. Because when we look at Excel, who really is the competitor of any forecasting tool out there. That is the default that 8 out of 10 people go to. It is highly customizable, can be extremely complex, and the world is your oyster. And so we wanted to be the polar opposite of that, because that's who we're truly competing against. And it's not to say there's not a great time and a place for that. Like, I still use Excel and spreadsheets. There's just, if you're not a person that likes that,
Yeah.
then you can come and use us straight out of the box, and it's a much more seamless and less painful experience.
I think that less painful experience is something that we all want to know, right? I mean, and I can't stress this enough, to know your numbers, right? And I mean, talking about it. Where's this going? What's going? What's your break even?
Yeah.
Where do we have to go to get to here? And even when you're raising money, it's important. People want to, when investors ask you a question, they want that answer, right? Like, it's not like, oh, I'll get back to you. We want you to know your numbers, and anything that makes it easier to know those numbers that you're able to explain to somebody, it's so beneficial.
Yeah, 100%, especially when you're talking the small business owner. So when you're talking, especially in your space where you've got startup TNT, you've got tech founders, people created new, highly innovative companies. They might not have the financial background to even know what a break even is. And so we really want to boil it down to just the one basic number that everybody can understand, which is cash in the bank. We pull all the data and we help you manipulate it, but it still boils it down to that one number. If I do this XYZ, what is my bank balance going to look like 6 months from now? And is that good or bad? And you can see it visually over time as a line graph for your bank balance, as well as, we call them transactions, but it's essentially all the ins and outs that go through your bank account as a bar graph, which you can interact with. So to us, it was really important to boil it down and make it really simple, so that people, it is super important, like knowing exactly where you're going, how you're going to get there. And even if things are bad, I've had the experience before with clients where things are not great, but if you don't know that, you can't do anything about it. Whereas if you know things are bad and you can see the bus coming, so to speak, at least you can get out of the way of the bus. And that is extremely important just for any business. It's not just startups. It's not for companies that are in distress. That's just normal business operations. If you have better optics that resonate with you and that you can understand, you'll engage with it more. And, I know one question that you have is, what advice would I ever impart to a startup? Like, truly knowing your numbers is extremely key. Even if you're not going to be a Helm user, don't underinvest in bookkeeping. Don't underinvest in your accounting. Truly know your numbers, because it is so key to running any kind of business. And if you let it run amok, it can get pretty disastrous pretty quick, unfortunately.
Well, I guess the interview's over. That's always the last question. Just slide it into the middle now.
Shortest telling it like it is ever.
You're going to make it harder for me to clip it. Oh, that's awesome, right? But it's so true, right? We even have someone commenting on LinkedIn saying that they use the Helm App, and it is a wicked solution to a serious problem. And we also have another question, which ends up being our next question anyway. Somebody also wants to know, like, how does the app work? How do I get it? Is it very easy to use? Can I upload, CSVs? So why don't you explain that, Kelvin?
Yeah, so CSVs is something that we've had lots of requests for, so we are working on it. It's on our roadmap. But what we do is, like, our pain point, and going back to what I was speaking to, is most people are drowning in spreadsheets. They spend so much time and effort in building them that they spend very little time actually thinking about it. And we want to flip that paradigm. Like, we truly want to get people thinking about what is stressing them out, which is not building the spreadsheet. It's their cash flow situation, right? You're just adding to the stress by building the spreadsheet. You're not actually solving your problem. You're just making it worse. So we really wanted to leverage APIs. So APIs, for people that are not tech speak, that's just two accounting or two cloud systems connecting to one another and talking to each other. So Helm actually will connect to Xero, QuickBooks Online. We integrate also with Veeam, a payment platform. And we do the talking for you. So what we'll do is, if you're a company with history, we'll suck all of your history into Helm and analyze it for you. So if you've got, if you're not in the tech space and you're, say, in a traditional business with accounts receivable, so you sell something, but the customer has the ability to pay later, we actually will analyze how that individual customer pays you. So if they pay in 20 days, we'll forecast that in the future for you anytime a new invoice comes in. We'll also do the same thing on payables, where how does your company actually pay other people, and we'll map that out for you. And if there's no AR and AP, we'll still look at just general financial history in terms of profit and loss, trends, and we'll map all of that out for you. So we really take the pain out of creation and maintenance of spreadsheets, out of the forecasts, and we automate that whole trunk for you. So really what you do is you connect it to your accounting system, click of a button, it grinds out all of these calculations for you, creates your forecast, and then really you just need to tweak it, because if you really think about what you would do in a spreadsheet, you know, your vision for the future does not exist in your accounting system. That's just past history. And it could be a case you're a brand new startup and you have no past history. So then we've got a very simple interface where you just punch the data in, or you can tweak it. So example being, we analyzed your advertising history for the last 12 months and we said it was $500. But you actually want to spend 700 because you think spending 700 will make a bigger impact on your revenue. You just punch 700 in and it'll auto forecast that for you and track it, so that if you end up spending, say, 300 in the next week, it will automatically calculate that difference for you, so that there's only $400 left. So it completely eliminates the work in terms of maintaining, building forecasts, so that you can simply look at the graphs and start making decisions. So what I mean by that is you've got a cash graph that's going up and you decide, okay, I'm making lots of money and I want to buy this new piece of equipment. You can also analyze different scenarios, which is a huge piece of small business. You know, those pivots that we were talking about and the detours, you know, you want to have the ability to map those out. So we can overlay those one on the other so that you can see the differences that your decisions will make, again, on a cash basis. So you want to hire a new employee, just punch it in. The system will show you exactly what that looks like over time and the impacts that it'll have on your business on a cash basis, which is pretty powerful, right? Because again, you're trying to get back to what I was talking about, which is making good, high quality, informed decisions on a cash basis. Because, you know, when I talk to business owners, you try to do it on a profit and loss basis, it makes no sense, because you've got depreciation or prepaid expenses or it's all this accounting crap for lack of a better term. And I'm an accountant, and I'm saying that, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense for true small business owners, and that's why we're focusing on that cash basis, because it's the one true number that everybody really should have full optics on.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I'm talking to Kelvin, the founder of Helm. Take the Helm app. Take the Helm.app is their website. You can click on it in the comments section, and great website. You can definitely learn.
I even changed my last name to Kelvin at Helm.
Oh yeah, you should, right?
Right? That's my Facebook handle. That's why I was chuckling.
Oh, I know, right? It's like, there you go. It's Kelvin at Helm.
I got it tattooed on the back too.
Oh my God, that's great. So how small do you think, like, would it be beneficial if I am literally just coming out of an idea and can you go as far back as to that and just saying, okay, I need this, I've got very little, how will this, how will your app help a true startup from, let's call it day one?
Yeah, so see, to me, the true value for true startups, like no history in past transactions, anything like that, is the simplicity and the ability to map out those iterations. Again, we're talking quote unquote simple line graphs, but the amount of information that goes into actually building that can be pretty complex. And so we're giving people the platform to do that quickly and easily, and then iterate. Again, we just want people to be able to sit down and make those decisions. So if I'm a true startup, maybe I need to go raise money. What does that look like? What happens if I raise it now versus 3 months from now versus 6 months from now? And I can have different scenarios for that very quickly and easily. And now within those confines, what abilities do I have to do? Like, what developers can I hire? What advisors or consultants can I hire? How can I progress to my goals within those constraints of where my cash is now versus when I expect it to come in? That's what's truly powerful about our tool, is it gets you to the decision making and the mapping and the scenario planning as quickly as possible. Because that's where people typically fall apart. Again, not to beat the Excel drum to death, but if you're building this huge clunky Excel model with about 20 million inputs, your ability to get that overlay and get to that decision making is going to take you 6 to 8 hours just to refine your model, tweak it, make sure it's right. Did you screw up any formulas? Oh yeah, I did that here, here, and here. I moved the cell. That is extremely painful, especially for people that are not used to it. Whereas in our app, we've greatly simplified it. You input your parameters in terms of your future budgets, your future expectations, and then the system lays it out for you. And then you can hook it into your accounting system. And so as actual events start to happen, it will adjust that for you, which is huge. Like that maintenance piece, I can't understate. It's not the building that's really the key time saver. It's actually the maintenance piece. Like that maintenance piece will just drive you insane.
I can't tell you how many, and again, this is frightening, that I've asked somebody to say, okay, send me over your financials. And they've had to say, oh, I got to update them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because again, everything's done here, right? And we know it. Everything is done there. And where's your spreadsheet done? You can't do a spreadsheet on your phone. You got to do it on your laptop. And then what happens is your laptop, it's on there, it's on your desktop, it's on a little thing that you never click on and you forget about it. And when you start forgetting about your numbers, that could start lead to a really bad chain of events, and you not knowing what's going on. Oh yeah, I think I'm good. Or you look, or you just go to your bank statement saying, oh, okay, yeah, we got this much in the bank. I could probably do it, but you forgot about a whole bunch of shit that's about to come out or what you've done, right? So having something there that's real time, that's just priceless.
Well, and I always like to go back to, I'm a big process guy. So like when it came to our bookkeeping consulting firm, a very process oriented, like if you've ever read the E-Myth, which I know probably dates me, as does my wife, I'm a big believer in that, is that most businesses can be processed and systematized. And, where I'm going with that is I find people, when they don't have a handle on their financials, can become very reactionary. And that reactionary behavior becomes a lot more work than people probably think. Like you're continually in the mode of putting out fires as opposed to being proactive, having things planned out even slightly in advance. You don't have to do it months in advance, but like just have perspective on where you're going, and it will actually make your life easier because you can plan for it and make sure that you're handling it properly. It's almost like having Slack or an instant message. If you get that ping, right there, your attention's on something else, and whatever you were working on, it now takes you 10 or 20 minutes to get your mind back into thinking about it. It's the same thing when you're in that financial position, you don't know what's going on. You become very reactionary. Your communication explodes with people because you're trying to figure stuff out. It's hard to focus. Like there's all these other, and this is really interesting to me, and I get a little bit weird and passionate about it, but there's all these interesting emotional and psychological things that happen when people get into that reactionary state, and it really takes their eye off the ball. And so, that's, I think, where all these stats that I talked about at the start, like 80% of all business owners, period, stress about cash flow at some point in their life. So it is a thing. Like, you talk about top 5 problems for business owner, and it'll be top 3 for sure. Maybe it's not top 1 forever in your life because you're always worried about something else, but it'll certainly be in your top 3 for sure. And so, really getting people comfortable with that so they can get to a point where they can just pre-plan quickly and simply and just alleviate all that stress and carry out their plan. Like it is so key. So it's knowing the numbers is one thing, and it's a little bit self-serving, obviously, given our app and given my background. But the reality is that don't underestimate the impact of not having a handle on your numbers. Don't underestimate the impact of what that can do to both your stress levels, your lifestyle, your business operations, your employees, if you have them, because now you'll become very command and control. And what are you doing? What are you doing? No, change that. Like it can quickly unravel in ways that you wouldn't expect, in my opinion.
No, that's a very good opinion, because I've seen that.
And I have too, which is why.
And I mean, it should be laughing about it, but I mean, I always think sometimes I get there and I just assume that that's talked about enough. Like you might go through an accelerator, things like that, or whatever it may be, and it's talked about enough. And then I soon realize when they get out of these things that it's not, and there's not enough focus on that, and maybe too much focus on, well, let's this is how you properly raise money. This is how you put a pitch together. This is how you do this. It's like, holy shit, slow down. How about you teach me how to properly run a business, properly handle money, properly handle cash? It's the same thing why dentists aren't taught business class in school. I still don't get that. Most of them run their own business and have no freaking clue. It's trial and error.
It's the same thing with any small business, though.
Yeah.
Right? Why are we not taught this in high school? Like people should have a rudimentary understanding of how do I do bookkeeping? What does that look like, right?
Absolutely.
It's super key and important to people.
Absolutely, especially sales guys.
Yeah, right. 100%.
I didn't really I was lucky enough to have a background that I had to learn, the margins and what it is and profitability and things along those lines in sales, and everything was based on it, which really helped me when I became an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But most sales guys are like, well, how much commission am I making? That's all that matters, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about anything else. Let's go from there.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Right.
what's going into my genes? So I have another question here, but I'm gonna kind of put it into the next combine two, because I think they can be. So
Yep.
I mean, obviously spreadsheet's a competitor, and you say you have some new things coming up. So what really differentiates you, in the market, and what's next?
Yeah. So for us, like our key pieces are the way that we built it. So again, we built it with the small business owner in mind. And that's not to say that other tools haven't.
Yeah.
Our flavor is just different. Like we built ours to be interactive and visual, whereas most other tools out there are spreadsheet based. Like they're essentially just a mimic of a spreadsheet, just in a different form. And that's fine. It works for some people. Everybody's got different styles and approaches and how they like to see things. So ours is very visual. And so if you hate spreadsheets, like, we are the choice for you. On top of that, our integrations are a little more in depth in terms of customer trends and vendor history, which if you're creating a rolling forecast, so maybe not for tech startups per se, but for businesses with AR and AP, like rolling cash flow forecast, that 52-week cash flow forecast is a really key report that you should be running and looking at in order to help with your decision-making process. We essentially automate that using our algorithms and calculation methods for that, whereas most other tools don't. So we've got that, as well as we've got integrations with payment systems. So, when most people are like, well, why would you integrate with a payment system? The methodology there is we want to help people with the whole cash flow process. So not only just the reporting and planning, but actual execution. Because again, going to that reactionary state that I was talking about, the amount of communication and planning and effort that goes into actually paying a bill once you've decided to pay the bill is actually pretty large. Whereas with a click of a button in ours, you've already created the plan, you click the button, you just want to execute it. That's the whole methodology there. So we've got a little more of a holistic approach around the entire process, whereas people in Excel, you can't even do that. You're very much more focused on the report. And that's also where we find a lot of our competitors playing too. They're very much focused on the reporting and what the automations look like around that versus automations around the entire process and helping people with quote unquote jobs to be done. Like how do we Helm actually help you, Jade, the business owner, work less and think more? That's really what we're all about.
Work less, hey?
Love working less, right? Everybody wants to work less, make more. Like
Absolutely right.
I can't necessarily promise to make more, but I can work less.
Work less appeals to me, right? No, and I mean, and that's true. And thank you for sharing that. And Marty, thank you for the question. But yeah, I mean, I agree. And I mean, this is why I think it's such an important conversation. And I know you answered the last question, but this is my number 221, right? But I think it's so important that you actually repeat that answer, because as you know, I'm in the ecosystem. I'm out there. I was at Uniting the Prairies. I was out at CTech West here talking to clean tech entrepreneurs and startups. And it is the number one question. It's the number one thing I talk about. And I can't stress it enough about money and cash and knowing your numbers and what's coming in and what's going out. And it's something that I don't say check once a month. It should be almost check 2 or 3 times a week that you should be knowing this.
100%, and we work in our consulting firm. We work with a lot of different businesses, and, I'm detached from that because I'm on the software side, but history would tell me that the number one issue I see is people under-investing in their accounting and their finance function. And usually it's because, they've done it themselves. They started their business and they were so busy, they just did QuickBooks themselves, or they got their wife to do it, or their husband, or their kid. Like, who knows? And so you get into this mindset that you cheap out, I guess is where I'm kind of getting to.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst things I think that you could do. Like, I'm not saying that people should be gouging you and should be paying $2,000 for bookkeeping in a month, but don't do the opposite where you're actually under investing and you're spending $200 in a year.
Oh no, no doubt. I could not agree more. So I guess are we still there? Oh, gone. Well, if he comes back, we'll ask the last question. If he doesn't, At least we had a mic drop moment when it came to when it came to what actually happened. So, but again, his questions, you can go back. It was at about the 13-minute mark, and it was talking about the importance of knowing your numbers. So that's something that we just want to stress. And again, I really thank Kelvin for coming on today. It was a great conversation, and again, we'll check out their app. Take the Helm.app is there. Click on the comments section. Go definitely look at it for sure and trial it. So it is so important. Anyways, tomorrow Startup TNT has a great event. We're going to be live at Platform, also in Edmonton, also in Saskatoon. You can watch it live if you can't be there in person. But until then, I'd like to thank everybody for listening. And again, check out the Helm app. It's in the comments.